I still remember the sound of the waves crashing against the rocks, that violent, merciless roar that swallowed the ship whole and left us stranded on that lonely strip of land. Salt stung my eyes, my lips were raw from the sea, and when I finally dragged myself onto the shore, the world felt both terrifyingly empty and strangely alive. The island stretched out before me, wild and untamed, like some forgotten corner of creation. I thought I was alone, until I heard the heavy crunch of boots in the sand. It was him, the rancher. His hat was missing, his shirt torn, but his eyes, steady, unyielding, like the Texas plains he came from. He looked at me, his jaw set firm, then simply said, "You made it?" Those words were rough and plain, but to me, they were salvation. That night, as the sky burned purple with the last light of day and the sea lapped at the edge of our new prison, he looked at me with that same unwavering calm and said, "Stay close to me tonight." And I did. Because somehow, I knew that if I strayed too far, I might lose myself forever in that wilderness. We weren't supposed to be there. I deboarded the ship chasing the promise of adventure, restless from the quiet life I'd been living. He had boarded for work, a ranch hand heading west to start over. We were strangers thrown into the same storm, and fate decided to bind us with salt water and desperation. The island was no paradise. The palms gave us shade but little fruit, and every shadow seemed to hold a threat. At night, the cries of unknown creatures echoed from the jungle, raising the hairs on my neck. But he was steady. Always steady. He built a fire, gathered wood, and fashioned a spear from a broken piece of the wreckage. I tried to hide my trembling hands as I gathered driftwood, but he saw. "You're tougher than you think," he told me, his voice low and sure, the way only a man who's worked the land and battled storms could speak. I wanted to believe him. The days were grueling. We searched for food, climbed rocky cliffs in search of fresh water, and learned to read the moods of the sea. He showed me how to weave palm leaves into shelter, how to dig for roots that could keep us alive. But more than survival, he gave me something else: comfort in the quiet moments. There was one evening, the wind soft and the stars so bright they seemed close enough to touch. We sat by the fire, and I confessed how I'd always felt like a wanderer, never truly belonging anywhere. He listened without judgment, his gaze fixed on the flames. Then he said, "Out on the ranch, when the cattle are restless, you don't fight them. You guide them, slow and steady. Maybe that's what you're searching for, not a place, but someone to guide you through the storms." His words sank deep into me, deeper than I wanted to admit. But the island tested us. A storm hit, fiercer than the first, and our shelter nearly tore apart. I clung to him as the wind howled and the rain cut like knives. "Don't let go," I whispered, though my voice was swallowed by the thunder. His arms held me fast, grounding me like roots to the earth. When it passed, we were soaked and exhausted, but alive. That night, lying close for warmth, I felt the steady rise and fall of his chest against my back, the heat of his skin chasing away the chill. It wasn't just survival anymore. Something in me was beginning to soften, to yield, to trust. One morning, I found him staring at the horizon, his eyes distant. "You think anyone's out there looking for us?" I asked. He shook his head slowly. "Maybe. Maybe not. But if they don't come, I'll keep you safe here." There was no hesitation in his voice. No doubt. Just a vow spoken plain, like a prayer. It was then I realized that safety wasn't just about food, or fire, or shelter. It was about him. His presence, his strength, his quiet faith that we'd endure. Days blurred into weeks. We carved out a rhythm, hunting, gathering, surviving. Yet in the quiet of the nights, under the canopy of stars, we carved out something else too. A closeness neither of us had expected. He never spoke sweet words, never promised me forever. But he didn't need to. The way he handed me the last of the berries when he was hungry too, the way he stood between me and the dark jungle, the way his hand would brush mine when we worked side by side, those were his confessions. And I heard them all. One night, when the moon hung heavy and silver above the water, he turned to me and said, "You know, I've lived through droughts, through winters where cattle starved, through storms that ripped barns to the ground. But I've never felt fear like I did that first night on this island, fear that I'd lose you before I even knew you. I couldn't breathe." His words struck deeper than any storm. I reached for his hand, and for the first time, I let the walls around my heart fall. We don't talk about what will happen if rescue comes. Maybe because deep down, we're not sure we want it. The world beyond the island is full of rules, expectations, and roads that split apart. But here it's just us. Two souls bound by survival, by firelight, by a love that bloomed in the unlikeliest of places. Sometimes I wonder if fate crashed that ship on purpose, if it tore away everything familiar so that I could find the one thing I never knew I needed. And when he pulls me close at night, his arm heavy around me, his breath warm against my hair, I know the truth. I may have been lost at sea, but on that deserted island, with the rancher by my side, I found my home. That is how a storm turns strangers into something more. That is how survival gave birth to love. And that is why, even now, when I close my eyes and hear the waves, I don't feel fear anymore. I feel him. And I remember the first night when he said, "Stay close to me tonight." I did. And I always will.